Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, Sudan's Prime Minister survives a bomb and gun attack in Khartoum. Abdallah Hamdok vows the violence will not derail the country's post-revolutionary transition to civilian rule. Also in Nigeria, Lamidou Sanusi is in hot water once again. The former head of the Nigerian central bank is deposed as one of the country's top Islamic leaders. Sanusi is replaced as Emir of Kano after months of rowing with state governors. And critics of a controversial social media bill in Nigeria speak out against it at a public hearing that the Senate says will go a long way towards influencing lawmakers' position on adopting the proposed changes. But first, Sudan's Prime Minister says that he is in good shape after surviving a potentially fatal close call on Monday. Abdallah Hamdok had been heading to his office in Khartoum when his convoy was attacked. The attempt on his life highlights the fragility of the country's transition to civilian rule in the wake of last year's revolution. Maud Julien tells us more.
Kober district in the northeast of Khartoum cordoned off after Monday's attack. One member of the Prime Minister's convoy was injured and 2 vehicles were damaged, but the gunmen missed their target.
The convoy of Sudan's Prime Minister, Abdallah Hamdok, faced a terrorist attack this morning while heading from his home to his office. The convoy was hit by an explosion and gunshots at the entrance of the Kober Bridge. Neither the Prime Minister nor his team were harmed during the attack, except for one member who has a minor injury in the shoulder from falling from a motorcycle.
In an extraordinary cabinet meeting held hours after the assault, the government said the terrorist attack had targeted the revolution of the Sudanese people and the gains they achieved. Sudan's Prime Minister was appointed in August to lead a 3-year transition following a popular uprising which led to the departure of former President Omar al-Bashir. Moments after the assault, several groups of pro-government protesters gathered in the capital's streets.
All these people are gathering here to send a message that today, this youth that took part in the Great Revolution supports Mr. Hamdok. They will defend the revolution and its leaders.
This is the first incident of this scale in Sudan, and I hope there are no more such attacks that could make Sudan a chaotic place, hosting terrorist movements from around the world.
Since he took office, Abdallah Hamdok has been attempting to tackle social and economic difficulties, reform the political system, and to forge peace with rebel groups across the country.
Now, the second most senior Islamic ruler in Nigeria has been deposed from his throne and replaced within hours. Lamidou Sanusi was named the Emir of Kano in 2014 after having been pushed out of his previous role as governor of the Nigerian central bank. On Monday, he was officially dethroned as Emir, accused of disrespecting Kano state governor Abdullahi Ganduje. Sanusi had been at loggerheads with him for several months. Sanusi had also been an outspoken critic of corruption and misgovernance and had called for the modernization of the North. Sam Olakoya joins us now with more. Sam, first up, why was Sanusi quite so unpopular with the governor of Kano?
Well, there had been a long-standing disagreement or bad blood between the Governor Ganduje, and Sanusi for quite some time. And I think what happened is just a turning point in this crisis between the governor and the emir. To start with, they have political differences. The governor, Sanusi did not support the governor during his re-election bid, and I think the governor wasn't very happy about that. He had, on several occasions, directly attacked the governor. He had, on several occasions, drew attention to the situation in Kano, child marriage, street children, and some of this he tend to attribute to the style of government in Kano State. So the governor saw some of these things as a direct attack on him, and it was like he felt like hitting back at the emir.
Well, that's now happened. What is in store for Sanusi now? What does he do next?
Well, I think it could be a very difficult time for him. What we are hearing from the palace, from the government, is that he will be taken to a remote location on exile, and a government official was saying that he will be under house arrest. He wouldn't have access to visitors. For a man like Sanusi, who has been known to be very outspoken, I think this could be a difficult time for him, and it's quite possible he might go to court to challenge this, that if he hadn't committed a crime, why will you put him under house arrest?
Thanks very much, Sam Malakoya there for us. Now, at least 5 soldiers and 4 civilians have been killed in Western Cameroon over the weekend. They died in attacks that have been blamed on armed Anglophone separatists who've been demanding independence from the French-speaking majority. Indira Ayok tells us more.
Gunmen attacked Galim in the Francophone West region of Cameroon Saturday night. The area borders the English-speaking Northwest region of Cameroon, which has been at the heart of an armed Anglophone uprising since September 2017. The Ministry of Communications says about 30 heavily armed men stormed a gendarmerie brigade as well as a police station in Galim at about 10 p.m. Saturday night. 2 female gendarmerie officers and 2 policemen were killed. 4 other civilians lost their lives in the violent clashes between Anglophone militants and law enforcement officers. Following the attack on Saturday, a video is doing the rounds on social media. In the video, we see suspected separatist fighters brandishing weapons they took from the Galim Gendarmerie Brigade. The items include guns, police uniforms and bags, as well as a police motorcycle. The men in the footage can be heard saying they are members of the Amazonian Defense Forces. A day later, in Bamenda, in the northwest region of the country, a bomb went off at a commercial avenue. 1 soldier died, 6 other uniformed officers were wounded, and 1 civilian was left injured. The incident happened not far from the grandstand where official ceremonies to mark the International Women's Day were ongoing. Pro-separatist fighters had called for a boycott of all official ceremonies in the 2 English-speaking regions of the country, including activities organized to commemorate Women's Day.
Indira Ayek there for us. Now, a public hearing was held on Monday into a controversial social media bill currently before the Nigerian Senate. Critics of the bill don't want it passed into law because they fear it could be misused to violate people's rights. Called the Protection from Internet Falsehood and Manipulations Bill, it could make it a crime to post content that could diminish public confidence in the government. A special committee is now set to make a recommendation to the Senate. Our correspondents report.
Social media users in Nigeria are worried that 2 bills currently before the Senate could negatively impact freedom of speech. They are aimed at regulating the sector by targeting fake news and hate speech. Dotun Oladipo is president of an online syndicate and publication. He's concerned the proposed changes could make it harder for journalists to do their jobs.
Great journalists in this country and great newspapers, they're already online, practicing their profession there. So if that is the target, then that fear will always be there, that this government is out to muzzle the press. We have more than enough laws already to take care of any infraction you can think of.
Over the past few months, several people have been arrested for publishing information online. Omaleye Showore is the founder of Sahara Reporters. He's accused of inciting an online revolution. Authorities in Abuja are defending themselves and say that there is a need for a new law in order to improve the credibility of online sources.
What is not tolerated on the streets should not be tolerated on the internet. So I honestly, when people, you see this cry about, oh, they want to stifle debate, I think it's a small screen for people who want to remain completely irresponsible.
About 110 civil rights organizations have launched an online petition against the regulation of the internet. The Nigeria Union of Journalists says its members have a constitutional right to hold power to account.
We believe that it's in the best interests of governments to allow constructive criticism We also believe that journalists must also be fair and also be balanced in their reportage on government issues.
If these bills are adopted, anybody could be sanctioned by the police without being prosecuted for fake news and hate speech. The law could sentence an offender to 3 years imprisonment.
Well, that's it for Eye in Africa. Thanks for joining us. Do so again. Take care.